Hi there! In this video, we will discuss the summary of the 31st chapter of Noli Me Tangere by Dr. Jose Rizal, titled The Sermon. We will also study the important events, characters, settings, and lessons found in this chapter. Listen and watch carefully, as you will learn a lot from this historical work by Rizal. Let's begin. Padre Damaso began his sermon in both Tagalog and Spanish, using a passage from the Bible. The sermon was about praising the holy saints of the church and great figures like King David, Gideon, and Roland. However, more than that, Padre Damaso used his sermon to mock Filipinos, especially since he did it in Spanish so most people wouldn't understand what he was saying. He also took the opportunity to embarrass people he didn't like. As the sermon went on, many in the crowd began to feel sleepy and yawn, including Captain Tiago, because they couldn't understand what the priest was saying. Meanwhile, Maria Clara and Ibarra secretly exchanged glances, expressing their feelings for each other through their eyes. When Padre Damaso switched to Tagalog, he shamelessly criticized Ibarra, though he didn't mention his name directly. Padre Salvi was not pleased with what was happening, so he rang the bell as a signal to end the sermon. However, Padre Damaso ignored it and continued preaching for another half hour. Meanwhile, Elias quietly approached Ibarra inside the church and warned him to be careful and avoid going near the stone that would be placed in the grave, as it could pose a danger to his life. No one noticed Elias's arrival or departure. Now, let's move on to the important events in this chapter. Padre Damaso began his sermon in Tagalog and Spanish, praising saints and biblical figures. He used his sermon to mock Filipinos, especially Ibarra, though he didn't mention his name directly. Many in the crowd, including Captain Tiago, began to feel sleepy because they couldn't understand Padre Damaso's words. Padre Damaso ignored Padre Salvi's signal to end the sermon and continued preaching for another half hour. Elias warned Ibarra to be careful and avoid the stone that would be placed in the grave, as it could endanger his life. Important characters. Padre Damaso, a priest who delivered the sermon. He used it to mock and embarrass Filipinos, especially Ibarra, though he didn't mention his name directly. Padre Salvi, another priest who was unhappy with Padre Damaso's actions and rang the bell to end the sermon, but Padre Damaso ignored him. Padre Sibila and Padre Martin, priests who were impressed by the flow of Padre Damaso's sermon. Captain Tiago, a prominent figure in San Diego who couldn't help but feel sleepy during Padre Damaso's long sermon. Maria Clara, a woman close to Ibarra's heart. In this chapter, she exchanged glances with Ibarra while listening to the sermon. Crisostomo Ibarra, the main character who was indirectly criticized by Padre Damaso during the sermon. He was secretly warned by Elias about a potential danger to his life. Elias, another character who quietly entered the church and warned Ibarra about the impending danger. Let us now proceed to the setting of this chapter. The chapter took place inside the church where Padre Damaso's sermon was being held. Here are some of the lessons, messages, or implications shown in this chapter. Padre Damaso's use of his authority as a priest to mock and embarrass others shows the lack of integrity in some people in positions of power. It highlights the danger of abusing religious authority. Elias's warning to Ibarra shows the importance of having caring friends who are willing to warn or protect you in times of danger. Friendship is crucial in avoiding potential disasters. The lack of interest from the crowd in Padre Damaso's sermon, especially since they couldn't understand the language, shows the importance of clear and understandable communication, especially in matters of faith. Padre Damaso's refusal to heed Padre Salvi's signal to end the sermon shows selfishness and a lack of consideration for others' feelings and needs. It demonstrates that excessive boasting can lead to annoyance and alienation. This chapter shows how people can show different faces depending on their intentions. It highlights that true holiness is not measured by the amount one says or their social position, but by integrity, compassion for others, and humility. And that concludes the 31st chapter of Noli Me Tangere, titled The Sermon. What have you learned from this chapter? Share your answers in the comments. We also encourage you to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay updated with our future videos. Until next time, thank you for watching.